Survival games serve as a true test of your mettle and might, and PlayStation Plus provides a variety of such games for you to enjoy. Stay with us as we discover the best survival games available on PS Plus. Number 20 is Alien Isolation. This release is widely considered one of the best survival horror games available on PS Plus, with many praising it as one of the best video games based on the Alien franchise to date. Players take on the role of Amanda as she fights to survive against creepy androids and a xenomorph alien. Isolation takes its cues from the original Alien movie, functioning more as a sci-fi horror experience with minimal focus on action. While Amanda does have some weapons to defend herself, one of her most important tools is the motion tracker that she uses to keep track of the xenomorph's whereabouts. This way, Amanda can do everything possible to avoid the xenomorph and stay hidden from all the other threats actively trying to kill her. Alien Isolation offers a unique experience and is undoubtedly one of the best survival games available on PS Plus. Number 19 is Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories, a unique survival game that revolves around natural disasters. Players must make their way through crumbling cities to escape alive. The game's premise of surviving a shared tragedy with other characters lends itself well to telling self-contained stories with bombastic and jaw-dropping set pieces. Summer Memories is an excellent entry point into the series, and while it was released in 2020, it may not be visually impressive, so new players should expect a B-movie-like experience. However, the game has its charm and stands out among the PS Plus survival games. Number 18 is How to Survive 2, a pure survival game that places players in the midst of a zombie apocalypse with the sole objective of staying alive. Unlike other games in the genre, there is no rescue helicopter waiting on top of a building or a complex storyline that explores the morality of human behavior. Instead, players must explore the game's map in search of resources, craft necessary items, and fortify their base of operations to fend off the undead hordes. Despite its simple premise, How to Survive 2 is a well-executed game with a strong gameplay loop. Whether playing solo or with a group of friends, the game is engaging and challenging, making it a must-play for fans of the survival genre. Number 17 is Tokyo Jungle. When it was released in 2012, this game was hard to understand, and the passage of time has done little to change this. While rough around the edges, Tokyo Jungle remains a fairly impressive project, especially for those who approach it with few expectations. It is quirky, occasionally dark, and oddly charming. With humanity reduced to a memory, the titular city has transformed into a literal urban jungle, where animals of all kinds roam the streets. In addition to a story mode that follows a few of the playable animals, Tokyo Jungle offers a survival option that allows players to select a creature and strive to survive. Over the years, these animals will hunt to stay alive, facing dangers from other city inhabitants and environmental challenges, such as changing weather conditions. Number 16 is Resident Evil 7. This release is one of the best entries in the Resident Evil franchise. Biohazard marks a return to the series' roots and reimagines the zombie game formula. Instead of continuing with the third-person action horror format of the previous games, Resident Evil 7 takes a more immersive first-person perspective, and it significantly amplifies the vulnerability of the protagonist. In this survival horror experience, each encounter becomes a life-or-death decision. Every missed shot feels like a minor catastrophe with potential consequences down the line. Every narrow escape leaves you wondering if you'll find a crucial item or ammunition in time to confront the next horrifying challenge. Number 15 is Fallout New Vegas, a story-driven action RPG with some survival elements, particularly in its hardcore mode. On normal difficulty, the game has typical sandbox challenges but lacks significant survival mechanics. However, the hardcore mode includes features like dehydration and starvation, which are absent in a standard run. Meter monitoring, which is a key component of survival games, is also emphasized in this mode, making it a more immersive experience. While this mode does not impact the story, it significantly alters the gameplay flow, requiring players to think more critically about survival tactics, such as prepping and resource management in order to navigate the harsh wasteland. Overall, New Vegas's hardcore mode is an excellent example of how survival elements can be incorporated into traditional RPG gameplay. Number 14 is Far Cry Primal. While there have been several great Far Cry titles released in recent years, few are as inspired and unique as Far Cry Primal. This entry offers a departure from the typical Far Cry experience, and that departure extends beyond its ancient setting. With the shift, modern weaponry and vehicles are replaced, leaving players with tools like bows and arrows and rideable beasts. These changes introduce a survival twist, albeit somewhat superficial, as Primal retains many of the standard mechanics found in the main entries. The game doesn't prioritize its story, but rather encourages players to explore the world as they work to establish their tribe as the dominant force in the region. While the game's standard mode can satisfy your survival instincts, you can opt for Survivor mode if you seek a significant challenge. If you're enjoying this video so far, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. Number 13 is Conan Exiles. In many ways, this title plays out like a fairly straightforward survival game. It casts a surprisingly wide net in terms of mechanics and reach, encompassing many of the genre's fundamentals, including resource and meter management, deep crafting, and combat. Although primarily designed with community and online play in mind, the game contains a story, aiming to satisfy players looking for a more single-player campaign experience. Conan Exiles works well as an action RPG and even offers a main questline that provides some direction for the first few dozen hours. Base building and crafting are also central to the package, with the former being intrinsically linked to PvP. Number 12 is Unturned, a game that has enjoyed a surprisingly long shelf life, with a good number of active players still engaging with it. While not necessarily bringing a lot of innovation to the zombie sandbox genre, Unturned's appeal lies in the freedom its gameplay provides. After spawning into a map, players have to fend for themselves, managing their food supply, finding and upgrading weapons, and avoiding radiation. Unturned thrives on PC with its robust modding scene, but the PS4 version holds its own, making it a worthwhile choice for solo play sessions. While it might be dated in some ways, Unturned remains one of the best survival games on PS Plus Extra. Number 11 is The Last of Us Remastered. You probably expected this one already, since it's one of the most phenomenal games ever. The Last of Us follows the story of Joel and Ellie as they trudge through the post-apocalyptic United States after a mutant fungus outbreak turns everyone into a zombie. The amount of character drama, narrative twists, and feelings in this title are simply unmatched by even the biggest survival titles. The Last of Us takes a familiar premise and delivers a profound character study filled with unforgettable moments. The gameplay is hard-hitting and intense, blending elements of adventure, survival, action, stealth, and continuous exploration. Number 10 is Surviving Mars, a brutally satisfying city-building game in which players must colonize the Red Planet. In such a hostile environment, it comes as no surprise that there are dangers and mistakes will be made that lead to disastrous conclusions. Surviving Mars has a couple of modes that tweak the difficulty. For instance, Creative emphasizes the city-building aspect. Conversely, Survival mode is the direct opposite, although it does not ramp up the difficulty to absurd levels either. Basically, players are left to make their own decisions as they try to keep their colonists alive, which means monitoring vital resources like oxygen and food, making it a great pick for anyone who is looking for a good survival game. Number 9 is Death Stranding, a game that has walking as its central mechanic and largely tasks players with acting as a delivery service. In a post-apocalyptic wasteland, Sam sets out to travel from colony to colony, delivering supplies while setting up a communication system. What makes Death Stranding work more as a survival title than an action-adventure one is how the packages tend to handicap the players, forcing them to think up creative or resourceful ways to avoid combat and complete their delivery. Combat is sparse and unconventional, meaning you have to rely on grit most of the time. Number 8 is Days Gone, an open-world game that blends elements of the survival genre. The game is set in a zombie-infested Oregon and follows the story of Deacon St. John, a biker who discovers that his supposedly deceased wife may still be alive. This revelation leads him on a lengthy journey across the state where he must confront both human and undead enemies. One of the game's main attractions is its massive zombie hordes, which players must carefully avoid during nighttime travels. While Days Gone isn't overflowing with survival mechanics, players must ensure that Deacon's motorcycle remains in good condition and has enough fuel to keep running, adding a crucial survival element to the gameplay. Number 7 is Terraria, where an utterly gigantic procedurally generated world awaits. You must build your own village, customize your character, recruit NPCs, and survive before night falls, and the lands fill with shambling monsters and demons. After a few hours, the campaign's main focus starts to revolve around exploration, resource gathering, and boss fights, all of which are engaging. Over the decade the game has been out, it's filled with even more new areas, items, and other stuff to uncover. Number 6 is Outlast 2, a first-person psychological survival game set in a rural area where an investigative journalist and his wife travel to investigate the murder of a pregnant woman. On their way, the couple has a crash, and the journalist wakes up to find his wife missing. He must search for her through a dark and twisted world filled with madmen and other horrors. With limited resources and no weapons to defend himself, the protagonist must use his wits and stealth to survive. But as he delves deeper into the darkness, he begins to uncover a disturbing truth that threatens to consume him. With its intense atmosphere, Outlast 2 is a must-play for fans of survival horror games. Number 5 is Dismantle, a post-apocalyptic survival game that immerses players in a desolate world filled with mysterious ruins and dangerous creatures. Dismantle offers a unique and captivating gameplay experience, allowing players to explore the vast open world and scavenge for resources to survive. What sets Dismantle apart is its deep crafting and dismantling mechanics, enabling players to break down nearly everything they find, turning the remnants into valuable materials for crafting weapons, tools, and armor. The game also encourages players to solve various puzzles and customize their characters' abilities to suit their preferred playstyle. Dismantle's charming art style and engaging mechanics make it a game worth exploring for those seeking a captivating and challenging survival experience. Number 4 is Stranded Deep. This game draws inspiration from Castaway as it strands players in the Pacific Ocean following a plane crash. After reaching one of the map's islands, survivors must immediately start searching for resources to combat hunger and thirst. Like most survival games, Stranded Deep strongly emphasizes its minute-to-minute gameplay, with the early stages primarily focused on exploring the terrain in search of basic necessities. As players progress, they gain the ability to craft more complex items and construct bases. Mechanically, Stranded Deep is a fairly typical entry in the genre, but its unique aquatic setting sets it apart, making it one of the best survival games on PS Plus. Number 3 is The Long Dark. This game immerses you in the heart of the Canadian wilderness, a bitterly cold world where resources are scarce, and your survival instincts are the only things keeping you alive. To navigate the day-to-day challenges, you'll need to step out of your comfort zone and scavenge for supplies, tools, and, of course, weapons to fend off the beasts patrolling the woods and borders. The game offers 2 modes, Survival and Wintermute. While the gameplay loop is largely consistent between the two, the latter follows a story split into episodes. Survival mode is The Long Dark's bread and butter, and it's fantastic. After spawning in one of the map's many regions, players must strive to survive for as long as possible, with challenges like wildlife encounters and the threat of frostbite adding to the intensity. Number 2 is Frostpunk. If you're looking for something with a bit more grit than your average survival city-building game, then Frostpunk should definitely be in your library. While most survival games on PS Plus Extra only require players to protect themselves, Frostpunk takes it 100 steps further, putting players in charge of an entire group. Set in a harsh winter, the captain must manage productivity and morale while making tough decisions, such as determining which buildings should be placed closest to the steam engine, for example. Frostpunk is unforgiving, especially during its opening few hours. Mistakes will be made, and as things start to circle the drain, players will have to decide the lengths they are willing to go to in order to survive. Number 1 is This War of Mine Final Cut. Death might be around the corner in most survival games, but these titles are still generally fun. However, that adjective does not describe This War of Mine. Rather than putting players on the battlefield, this game focuses on the civilians caught in the crossfire. Whether alone or with people they need to protect, The survivors are ordinary folk who have been through hell, an experience that can bring out the best or worst in people. The base game has 12 playable characters, each with their own personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. The Little Ones expansion adds a child character, introducing a whole new dimension to the horror on display. This expansion allows you to imagine a bit about how innocent children might be living their lives during wars and why we must help stop killing innocents. Thank you for joining us as we discover the best games available on PS Plus. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, happy gaming!